India has announced that Sushma Swaraj, the foreign minister, will be meeting her Pakistani counterpart next week in New York on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. This comes after Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan wrote a letter to Prime Minister Modi suggesting the resumption of dialogue between the two countries and specifically suggesting that the two foreign ministers could meet in New York on the sidelines of this UN meeting. Today, the Ministry of External Affairs said that yes, in response to Imran Khan's letter, they have decided that the two foreign ministers will meet. However, the MEA strongly emphasized that this was not the resumption of dialogue, that India's red lines on terror remain, that this was just a meeting and not a full-fledged dialogue. Let's listen in.
I can confirm that on the request of the Pakistani side, a meeting between External Affairs Minister and Pakistani Foreign Minister will take place on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. This should not be confused with a resumption of any dialogue. This is a meeting which we have agreed to based on the request which we have got from the Pakistani side. On the SAARC itself, our position has been very clear and consistent. Time and again we have said that the atmosphere in the region is not conducive. This meeting is taking place on the request of the Pakistani side. As I have already mentioned, that we have not finalized the agenda of this meeting. I can say a barbaric incident which not only defies logic, not only defies civilized behavior, but also is against all international norms. I understand that the BSF has strongly taken up the matter with their counterpart on the Pakistani side. And of course, yes, I think it's a very serious issue, and definitely we will take it up with the Pakistani side in an appropriate manner.
So is this the right time for India to talk to Pakistan? Ambassador KC Singh joining us here in the studio. We also have with us Manish Tewari, spokesperson of the Congress Party and former Union Minister, Mr. Deshrathan Nigam, who's a political analyst, and Shekhar Gupta, founder of The Print, joining us from Pakistan. We're joined via Skype by senior journalist Mona Alam. I want to ask Ambassador KC Singh first, why now? What explains this change of heart? India keeps saying that this is not a dialogue, this is just a meeting, but why do you think India decided that we should meet?
You see, firstly, the two foreign ministers would be in New York. They are actually speaking the same day on September 29th. Mr. Swaraj speaks in the forenoon, and about 10 speakers later Qureshi speaks. Now, if they start another quarrel there, and I criticized Mr. Swaraj last time, I said more of an election speech for India rather than a speech for an international audience. So here's a great opportunity for her to really talk about international issues, multilateral issues, because UN is under stress. President Trump is putting pressure. He's withdrawing from organizations. He's reducing the budget. So these are issues which the members are concerned with, which we should be concerned with. Now, if you're going to make an Indo-Pak thing there, it's not really something that shows India as a rising power, as a potential permanent member of Security Council. So it's a good thing that you meet. In any case, talking to each other, there is no harm. And secondly, Pakistan, the army chief has played a very clever googly by putting the Kartarpur corridor in this.
Which we're now told will be raised by her when she meets
then
them.
Puts the Sikhs in a very difficult situation in Punjab, because they have to ask for it. But Pakistan says, let India ask for it, because India is not resuming dialogue, saying we have a red line, until you stop terror, will not talk to you. So how do you take up this issue? And if you don't take it up, it becomes an issue in Punjab. It's already become an issue. You can't be attacking Sidhu for it, because Sidhu's an emissary. He's brought a message back. Now you have to deal with it. So this becomes a good opportunity to raise it.
So you feel in a
Pakistan.
sense that it was forced on both countries because you had this meeting at the UN, both ministers speaking, and in a sense this couldn't have been avoided?
I would think so, because otherwise, you know, and I'm sure others must be putting, US as usual must be putting pressure, because they have the Afghan agenda, and you've seen that their ministers, when they came here, one of them came via Pakistan. So there is a regional issue, and India can't just sit out and say we will not, you know, Pakistan doesn't exist and will not talk to them. And if you want them to do certain things on terror, like SAARC was mentioned by the spokesman, if SAARC has to take place, then there the red lines can't be compromised by the government, because those red lines are really from Musharraf's time, which were laid when Vajpayee went there in 2004.
So let me ask Mr. Nigam though, I mean, just in terms of political timing, this comes a day after the very brutal killing of the BSF Jawan whose body was also mutilated, and it's something India has taken up both at the level of the BSF and will take up diplomatically as well. How do you think that is going to go down politically?
See, one thing is very clear, these are not talks, these are exploratory level affairs, you know, they're exploring each other right now. And India needs to be very careful and watch the cross-border indiscriminate firing and shelling, whether it reduces, it does not reduce, whether the efforts by the Pak army in infiltrating terrorists has gone down or not gone down. All these factors will be kept in mind if you have to have a formal talk. So politically, I don't think they are going in for political measures right now. This is only pure and simple exploratory behavior from both the sides.
Okay, so you're saying don't read too much into it, but I think what happens often is that one does read too much into these things because our political parties make a big deal out of it, including the government. So one has to ask the question, Manish Tewari, you have actually written some very strong tweets talking about what you see as the government's double-speak as far as Pakistan is concerned. I want to raise this point also, and I'm going to ask Ambassador K.C. Singh about this as well. We just had, for instance, General V.K. Singh a couple of days ago saying Imran Khan was a puppet of the army. Now you have the government announcing that the two foreign ministers will meet. All of this has happened after Mr. Modi sent a politely worded conciliatory letter to Imran Khan. So there does seem to be some confusing signals from the government itself, aren't there, Manish Tewari, on what the position is?
Well, Nidhi, New York in September is a very interesting time, and possibly it's a good time to talk about the weather in New York. For the simple reason that you have a strange and a piquant situation whereby the spokesperson of the MEA says that we are talking and yet we are not talking. What really does this exploration mean? The fact is that this government has had no policy towards Pakistan for the last 52 months. Their policy has been a classical masterpiece of flip-flops, U-turns, somersaults and backflips. They've swung from the sublime to the ridiculous, starting with the invitation to Nawaz Sharif on the 26th of May 2014 to boycotting the foreign secretary level talks on the Hurriyat question in the August of 2014. And then you went on to UFA the next year, and you had the hugs and kisses of UFA followed by the verbal kabaddi between Sushma Swaraj and Sartaj Aziz. And then you had the Prime Minister's dash from Kabul to Lahore, which is not explained today, followed by Pathankot. And then things have been in a deep freeze. So 52 months of this government's tenure, has gone past. And suddenly, in the 52nd month, on a day when you have this gross mutilation and abuse of one of your soldiers, with great insensitivity you announce that you've decided to engage the foreign minister of Pakistan on the sidelines of the UNG in New York. This completely and absolutely defies logic. And ultimately, when this government is in the slog-overs of its term, there's nothing substantive, productive, which is going to come out of, a meeting with Pakistan at this stage. Well, if they want to meet to talk about the weather, that's their problem.
But Manish, just to be the devil's advocate here, it's not like we haven't seen this cycle take place in the past, where even when the UPA was in power, attempts were made to have a dialogue, attempts were made to talk, those got derailed by terror attacks, attempts were made again. Why is this different?
Well, Nidhi, it is different for the simple reason that from 2004 to 2014, the BJP shouted from every rooftop available in the country that terror and talks cannot go hand in hand. From 2014 to 2018, they misled the country that we are talking to Pakistan about terror. In 2018, they do another somersault and they say that this is not talks. This is, we are going to talk about talks. I mean, frankly, this is completely logic-defying and perverse. So, therefore, you've taken a position and that position has been your red line, and suddenly you've decided to do a backflip on that red line when you cannot deliver. The time or the goodwill that this government had to engage in a substantive dialogue, that period is gone. So you want to spend the next 8 months, you know, discussing whether in New York or whether in Islamabad and New Delhi, where you can be our guest here.
Okay, so let me ask Mona Alam there, who's joining us from Pakistan. Mona, what's the reaction to this announcement there in Pakistan, that this is a meeting, this is not the resumption of dialogue? I'm sure that there would be an understanding there as well that, I mean, there really can be very limited outcomes to this meeting.
Thank you, Nidhi. Yes, this is a resumption of dialogue, but we would really, I mean, this is not a resumption of dialogue, but we would really want dialogue to resume, because our Information Minister Nawaz Sharif some days ago has reiterated the fact that we are very much fully in conviction and in consensus with both the civil and military leadership that we are going to open up the Kartarpur corridor for the Sikh pilgrims, and that doesn't solely go for India, but that goes for Sikh pilgrims from across the world. Number one. And number two, we have some very stark, grim memories, I'd say, from the last UN General Assembly that took place last September, the encounter and the verbal scuffle that took place between Sushma Swaraj and Maliha Lodhi, our permanent representative of, in the UN. So you see, we have to come out of that, and we hope that it's going to be a fresh beginning, a fresh start to the matter. We would really want the dialogues to actually resume. If India is calling this not a resumption of dialogues, I think it should really go for a proper resumption of dialogues in the formal manner. This is what we expect here in Pakistan, and with the PTI government taking the lead, I think we're all very positive here in Pakistan. The sentiment is really high when it comes to India-Pakistan bilateralism, and I think we should really break away from the taboos. Navjot Singh Sidhu has taken the lead. He has taken an initiative on his personal account, and I think the nations from both the sides should follow this.
Okay, so you're saying that perhaps from the Pakistani perspective, the view is that this is a fresh start that is being attempted. But Ambassador K.C. Singh, let me ask you this. We come back to the original point when Imran Khan took over. Is that how different is he going to be? Obviously, there's a lot of skepticism here that, you know, he is much closer to the military establishment. This could go both ways. He could either be someone who takes a much more difficult line when it comes to terrorism, or he could be somebody you could actually talk to because he's closer to the military. How do you see it?
You see, that's why this incident with the BSF Jawans, so that's Pakistani army setting the context. They are trying to vitiate the atmosphere even before obviously they were consulted before the letter was sent. That's a clear signal.
And the letter was
they
sent
were
a few
in the
days
loop.
ago on the 14th. Yeah.
So, you know, the two things are interlinked. So they are sending a signal both to Imran Khan and to India. You see, because what they are doing is, it's a very clever game to say Imran Khan is neither the two past regimes. It's a new beginning, which means the red lines and the demand that India has had on terror being curtailed. They said, no, put that aside. Punishing 2611, this and that. Imran Khan is new. He's just taken over the team. So please don't tell us about ball tampering in the past. You know, those were other guys who did it. So we are not concerned with ball tampering because he's a very good guy. Now that is not going to work because he has to carry the legacy of what's gone on before him. So the army's done this very clever thing of saying he's a fresh guy, started this. That's why he says, I'll take 2 steps for the 1 step you take. But he simultaneously brought up Kashmir. He simultaneously said there shouldn't be attack on certain people who are called terrorists, indirectly supporting Jamaat-e-Dawah. Those guys are being let out, etc. We don't know if their properties will be restored. So
what are we doing then? Do we know what we're doing
so
then?
Any
what are we
government
getting into?
No, any government in Delhi will have to essentially play a very watch and talk kind of mode. So every discussion that you have with Pakistan, I have always said we keep the channels open. It doesn't mean that every talk that you have with Pakistan is not about resolution of disputes. It is not a comprehensive dialogue. So therefore, keep the channel open, listen to them, convey to them what your concerns are, and that you are not buying this, that Mr. Imran Khan is somebody new, and therefore now we start afresh. We cannot start afresh. These are part of last 20 years, as you said, cycle of terror and dialogue. This government tried breaking, and their only mistake was you can't have zero tolerance. By that what you mean is any single incident. You
draw these red lines that you can't get out of.
No, because they back themselves into a corner, which means any single incident will stop any discussion with Pakistan. So you've given the control to a jihadi rather than. So certainly any major attack which you trace back to Pakistan government should invite reaction from India. But if you allow, so they are testing you with this Jawan thing. Will you not talk to us? despite this, because you said there's zero tolerance. So indirectly they're testing your zero
Well, we
tolerance
said
policy.
we will, and so the point is, Deshratan Nigam, as Manish Tewari was saying, government is inconsistent, it can't make up its mind about what its approach to Pakistan is. I mean, as someone who is sort of not a member of the BJP, but just, you know, looking at it from a distance, do you feel that there's some inconsistency?
No, inconsistency
Or that,
is...
that the government has actually boxed itself into a corner by saying zero tolerance and that, you know, we'll not talk at all if there's any incident. Now, there has been an incident that has happened yesterday, but you are talking to them.
See, as I said, it's only exploratory and they are still not talking. Formally, they are not talking. And if you look at it, the inconsistency is not with the government. Incidents keep on happening. Any step which is taken by India is some contrary step is taken by the Pakistan army. Some attack happens. Then government of India has to react. It cannot continue in the same mode. And therefore, terror and talks can't go together. And if you look at the history of Pakistan, any prime minister who's tried to be friendly with India has been removed. That's the consistency that the Pakistan politics has. So, government of India has always to be on guard. It is not that they can have one consistent policy. It has to be reactive also and proactive at the same time.
But a BSF Jawan was mutilated yesterday.
Yes,
what made India decide today that
it's
we'll
a war
talk?
crime. Incidentally,
It's
Which is a
war
war
crime.
crime. Which is so just based on our own red lines, what changed?
See, I think they need to consider this decision right now.
They need to consider, as in to talk.
To talk.
Why?
Because of this particular, it's a ghastly incident, and moreover, you know, mutilating the body which they did, it's rightly said by Ambassador, it's a signal sent by the Pakistan army. And see, if a normal course of somebody shot dead across the border, it happens at the border, or firing. But mutilating, gouging out the eyes, you know, other things which I can't even, you know, say it on the screen, is something I think government of India should take into consideration while taking any step in this direction.
Well, Shekhar Gupta also joining us this evening on the OB. Shekhar, what's your take on this? I'm sure it doesn't come as a surprise that India and Pakistan will talk. It's that cycle as we keep seeing, as we were mentioning. But what do you expect will happen? I mean, should we just honestly not expect much from next week's meeting?
Well, nothing can happen at one round of talks. The important thing is that a formal contact is resuming. Informally, contact has never really broken. These are two sovereign countries with nuclear weapons. They can't completely shut each other's out in a manner that people imagine they might, but they don't. So it's good that a formal contact is starting. Nothing will happen in this formal contact. I'm not even saying the temperature will come down or go up. We have no idea. India still has to figure out, and the world has to figure out, what kind of power or authority does the new Prime Minister of Pakistan have? Is it going to follow the same template of the army controlling the foreign policy, India policy, Kashmir policy, nuclear weapons, which means strategic policy, in which case, because Imran Khan is much closer to the army than Nawaz Sharif was. Nawaz Sharif was somebody who was challenging the authority of the army, and that is something he paid the price for. So if Imran Khan is a proxy for the army, then engaging with him is the same as engaging with the Pakistani army. At the same time, even if you were just a dummy, you have to engage, or you have to be seen to be engaging with whoever is in power in Pakistan. You can't say send your general while they have a prime minister, because then if you send your own general forward, there is a mismatch. There is a constitutional authority mismatch. So it is good and it's important to continue talking, just as it's good and it's important for the two countries to continue playing hockey, cricket, or whatever they play. You can't shut out another sovereign country.
Well, the point is, but is then, Shekhar Gupta, the problem here is that we also get, you know, stuck with the political rhetoric here at home, that we cannot move on to actually have any meaningful movement with Pakistan, because it becomes an election issue, it becomes a political issue.
Not talking becomes punishment.
Yeah, so it's just counterproductive, and it's not going to end. We're heading into an election campaign now. And I mean, you know, someone's going to say that if this guy wins, Pakistan will burst crackers. Someone else will say...
You saw the defense ministers...
Yeah, so the defense minister,
yesterday.
that's right, just talked about, you know, the heads of Pakistani soldiers. So when these things become rhetoric, when they become election rhetoric, it's very difficult, isn't it, to move on meaningfully?
Well, the defense minister let her conquer JNU first, and then I think she'll pay attention to Pakistan. But having said that, rhetoric will always go on. It's unfortunate that Pakistan plays out much more strongly and significantly in Indian elections than India does in Pakistan elections. But since that's a reality, you got to live with that reality. Many governments have come to power saying, we will not talk to Pakistan, we'll never talk to Pakistan until terrorism stops. Aar par ki ladai. Ultimately, you go back to the same status. You have to talk. You don't have to concede anything. No Indian diplomat, no Indian negotiator, Indian politician is a spring chicken. And these negotiations are not done on warrior channels at prime time, where people, if we could give them real rifles, maybe could settle the issue between themselves. This is a serious issue. The fact that the two countries are in contact, they are talking, increasing people-to-people contacts, and once again, I am sure the counter question will be, but they just killed one of our soldiers so brutally yesterday. Now the LOC, the game is being played to no rules. We've had our own defense minister say in a TV show that we also behead Pakistani soldiers which just don't display their pictures. In this case, we are displaying our own picture. So maybe the answer from her should be, oh, the Pakistanis don't display their own pictures, we display our own pictures. So you cannot let, it's a terrible incident. I am sure Indian soldiers, Indian Army, BSF, they are also not amateurs. They know how to more than get even, and they will more than get even.
All right.
Both sides know it.
All right.
But you can't have incidents determine policy.
Unfortunately,
large countries can't have
unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen,
for them.
although that is probably the most sensible advice when it comes to India and Pakistan. I have to leave it there. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us tonight. Let us see what happens next week. The headline really is that they are talking, they're meeting. It may not be a dialogue, there may not be any big announcement, but the very fact that the two foreign ministers are meeting after more than 2 years is in itself the story here.